oh, we don't need to worry about the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup because we're aiming for things bigger. You can't aim for things bigger if you haven't even got the things that should be more accessible, when obviously they're not accessible because, I mean, we've been kicked out of both. Welcome back to the Arsenal Humans podcast with me, Luce. I'm excited about today's episode. I don't know why, because obviously last night it didn't really go in our favour, but because I had sort of written it off, which I probably shouldn't have done, but because I sort of did, I was like, you know what, it was going to happen. But what I want to focus on is the weekend, which was amazing, but I don't actually want to get into any of that right now. Stay tuned this episode because I'm going to be chatting about the 3 games that we've played this week. We do have 1 game tonight, and then we've also got only just 1 game this week because it's the FA Cup week coming up. So, yeah, I'm buzzing about it. I'm excited. Let's just get into the episode because I'm too excited. Okay, let's get into arguably what is my favourite part of the Arsenal Humans podcast, the warm-up poll or the warm-up question. If you're new here, I basically put on my Instagram, which is lucechats, a question each week. And why I quite like it, is because I feel like you could have a good game of football that day, that week. You could have an amazing week of football, a really poor week of football. But this question sort of, it looks beyond that. It looks around it. Yes, it takes some things into consideration, but it's not just focusing on, oh, it was 1-0 or we scored this or whatever, which obviously I'll get on to later in the episode, and I do enjoy doing that as well. But I just feel like the warm-up poll can sort of summarise this week. And after last night's loss, meaning we are now kicked out of the Carabao Cup as well as the FA Cup, Arteta's actually only in the chance of winning 2 trophies, the Premier League or the Champions League. So I've decided this week the warm-up poll or the warm-up question. Actually, no, this week it is a warm-up poll. We're actually sticking to the brand, whereas previous weeks I feel like I always just go to questions. But it is, will Arteta get any trophies this season? Before I say my opinion, because I feel like you guys have probably already thought of yes or no. 17% of you said yes, Arteta will get a trophy this season, but 83% of you said no, he won't. And I'm going to have to agree once again. I feel like this is a reoccurring theme. I always agree with the poll, but I am going to have to agree with the poll because I'd love to be proven wrong, but I just think Carabao Cup and the FA Cup were our main chance of getting trophies. And don't get me wrong, there's some fans that really, really annoy me. They're like, oh, we don't need to worry about the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup because we're aiming for things bigger. You can't aim for things bigger if you haven't even got the things that should be more accessible, when obviously they're not accessible because, I mean, we've been kicked out of both. 1 to United and 1 to Newcastle. United's form this season has been shocking. Since Amorim has come in, I feel like he is the man that could turn it around, but it's not happening this season, and we've seen that. They just lost 2-0 to Palace at the weekend, and we got knocked out of the Carabao Cup. No, we got knocked out of the FA Cup from them. And then Newcastle, their form's so inconsistent. For some reason, they show up against us, so it's annoying for us. But yeah, I'd love to be proven wrong, but I think the only way that we're going to be able to win a cup, basically, win some silverware, Champions League, I think that's a bit far out of reach. I think maybe if we had a striker, which not quite sure why, alongside many of you guys, why Arsenal didn't get one for the men this transfer window. Who knows? I'm a bit baffled by it. I do get what Arteta's saying. He wants the right man, and he wouldn't just appoint anyone for the sake of it. But like at this point, I'm like, we just need someone who's out and out striker. Don't get me wrong, we can still score goals, and this week proved that. But I think in terms of competing in Europe, we aren't there just yet. I think in a few seasons' time we potentially could be, but for now, not quite there. And then if we want to win anything, I think it's basically all down to Liverpool messing up in the league, because we're second. We've been second for a while now in the Premier League, and I do think there is still a slight chance that we could, but it's all got to be down to Liverpool messing up. Same with the women's side. I think Arsenal could do it if we carried on our form, but then we've got to rely on Chelsea messing up. And when you're relying on other teams, it's so out of our control that I've got to agree with the 83% saying no. I don't want to dwell on this too much. I feel like I've already been chatting for a few minutes about this one poll. And it's not the most positive way to start this episode, but I think it's you've got to be realistic. People are getting delusional, thinking, yeah, we're winning everything, we're doing all of this. we can win one game. That doesn't mean we've won a whole league, if you get me. So yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with the 83% saying no, but I don't think that means Arsenal aren't getting silverware, because right now, I mean, in a few hours, by the time this episode goes out, I'm filming this on Thursday. It will go out on Thursday, and this evening we have the semi-final of the Women's Subway Cup. So I'm feeling optimistic. I think there is still silverware for us. Maybe not coming from the men's side, which is why I have to say that Arteta won't get any this season. I'm not saying he won't get any ever again. I'm not saying that he should be kicked out of the club, which is what people are saying, get rid of him. But I'm just saying I think we've got to rely on the women, as we used to do about a decade ago. I think we've got to rely on them to get some silverware. And historically, they've won the last 2 League Cups. So I'm thinking third year, might as well do it again. Although we do know that Chelsea are now in the final and their squad has strengthened. Yes, we've won them 2 times in the last 2 years. Like, we've beaten them both times in the final. But they've got a different squad this year. They've got a difference. Their squad is mad. So we can't underestimate that. But yeah, so obviously we've got that game coming up tonight, which I've just mentioned. I did actually preview it in the last episode because I kind of got a bit confused with timing and thought that, because I'm filming on a Thursday and putting this episode out on the Thursday and the game's on the Thursday, I'll be able to reflect on that game, but I won't, because that came this evening and I'm filming now. So I won't bother previewing that. I've already predicted it to be 2-0 to Arsenal, which I'm thinking should be calm. But instead, we can look back at 3 games that we've played this week, 2 against City and 1 against Newcastle in that horrible Carabao Cup semi-final, second leg last night. But let's just get straight into the games, because there's a lot of positivity to reflect on and a wee little bit of negativity. But let's get into that. Man City 3, Arsenal 4. We kicked off this week on Sunday at 12:30, I want to say, with an impressive win, and I don't think it does it justice just saying 3-4. I think we need to actually properly dive into this game, because I mean, if you look at my notes on my Pixel, it is pretty crazy. There's a lot of notes, a lot of back and forth, and I mean, a game with 7 goals where it's not all one-sided, that's going to be back and forth. So I'm just going to run through it briefly. I mean, Caldenti opened up the score sheet in literally 42 seconds. 42 seconds, that's all it took for us to open up the floodgates, and I'd love to say this sort of kicked off loads of the goals. We scored 4 goals straight out the back, but we didn't. But the goal that Caldenti got, who arguably in this game I think was player of the match, she was unreal, and she is consistently unreal. She did something that we've seen her do before, her high press. She's always pressing from the get-go, from literally she was literally pressing right up into the box basically, and we've seen her do it before. She did it a few weeks ago in the Champions League game at Meadow Park, and we saw her do it again where she got there first. She was first to the ball, just slotted it past Cara Keating, bottom right, and that calm composure in 42 seconds. I don't know if I mentioned that, it's 42 seconds. You're going to get really annoyed at me if you don't support Arsenal. But yeah, in 42 seconds, she managed to do that. And yeah, crazy work. I mean, Wubben Moy then scored in the 8th minute, so it did actually sort of trigger a couple of goals. I mean, Wubben Moy calmly just headed it back of the net. Beautiful. And also, one thing, as much as the goal was iconic, the celebration was more so, because she actually did the Gunners symbol in BSL, so British Sign Language, and she spoke about this after on Sky, and I just thought that was really empowering. And I think, to be honest, I think Wubben Moy is one of my favourite players because of what she does both on the pitch and off the pitch. And that goal, that whole 8th minute to probably like the 11th minute of the game, of the celebration, heading it into the net, that whole moment for me, I think is probably my highlight of the game, if I'm going to be honest, because I just love everything that Wubben Moy does. And she did give us the 2-0 lead, so, can't complain about that either. Obviously it is City and we can't rule them out. I mean, I know they lost against United in the Manchester derby, but they were still above us in the WSL heading into this game, so there was no way we could underestimate them. Mary Fowler did reciprocate the header basically to make it 2-1, showed they were still there, and yeah, we got it, they were still there, because then who else other than Miedemar then got the equaliser? I mean, it's annoying because it was from another defensive mix up, if you get me. It was literally in the box. Miedemar took advantage of it and slotted it home. I think for me, it's annoying that a couple of the goals came from mistakes at the back, but it's good when players capitalise on it. It shows that the competitive nature of the game, like if you mess up, that's going to cost you. And it cost both us and them, so then ended up being 2-2. At this point, it was around, what was it, the 50th minute? I was like, okay, amazing. I was actually on my way back from work, so I was sort of tuning it in and out and seeing all these notifications pop up, and all the group chats were going off like, oh my god, what's going on? And I was like, oh my god, what's happening? But that's the 50th minute, yeah. By the 51st minute, we already took back the lead, making it 3-2 because Caldenti did a beautiful through ball. This is what I'm saying. Caldenti was literally all over the gaff. Like she was dominating every space. She basically just slots it in, just a nice little through ball into Mornham. Mornham just taps it away, basically. Calm, composed, first touch, second touch, bam, in the net. And we wouldn't expect anything else from her, but it's always so rewarding when you see goals like that happen. And then, sorry, there's so many notes to get through. Wasn't over yet, obviously. You know the score was 4-3. Ended up becoming 3-3 because there was a penalty. Let me actually, you know what? Let me talk through this penalty. I feel like Arsenal have been subjected to a lot of penalties. Yes, some decisions I'm like, yeah, that was a yellow card. Yes, this is both men and women's, by the way. Like, yes, that might have been a yellow card. Yes, that might have been whatever, like unfair play. But the fact that there's a penalty, and if you watch back the video, I was watching that so closely, you can see that when Catley touches her, firstly, it's a tiny little touch. Like, that's not pushing over a feather. Like, nothing's moving from that. And it was also outside of the box. I don't know what really needs to happen with the officiating, because I do feel like a few of the decisions go against Arsenal, both in the Premier League and in the WSL, and it is really frustrating. I don't know if we need VAR. Maybe actually discuss that in the comments as well, because I don't know if VAR would be a good solution for this, but either way, it is frustrating that ended up becoming 3-3 because Mary Fowler converted from the spot because they got a penalty for something that didn't even happen in the penalty box. Like, it makes no sense, but you know, it's how the game worked, and I think I'd be more annoyed if it ended up being 3-3 because we would have dropped 2 points. But the fact that Caldenti crossed the ball, switched play all the way over to the other side of the pitch, found Beth Mead. Beth Mead then cuts it across the goal, literally across the floor, like grass skimmer, like meow. Although I don't know why I did sound effect, but proper into the box, and then Blackstenius literally just taps it home. Honestly, that, like, you could see everyone in the crowd. I so wish I could have been at that game. Everyone in the crowd was just like, oh my god, like, that was crazy to see. And I'm very, very happy that we ended up doing that, because it meant that we got the 3 points. So it means that we're 3 points behind United. We sit in third place, 3 points behind United, 10 points behind Chelsea. Yes, it is a big gap to Chelsea. I'm not saying we're going to catch up with them, but I reckon we can catch up to United and at least come second this season. So it just puts us in a good position, and it means that City are, I think, a good 3-4 points behind us as well in fourth. So I'm not seeing them catching up with us as long as we carry on doing our thing, you know. So yeah, it was very much they score, we score, you score, to me to you, basically vibe the whole game. But it gets you excited. I'm actually kind of out of breath just explaining it all. But I think for me, a few takeaways from that game. I think it shows that you can have a poorer performance, or you can maybe lose a game like we did with Chelsea last week, and then you can bounce back. And I think that's one thing on the Slagers we're doing really well with, is we're showing that we're still fighting, we're still competitive. Even if we drop our heads in one game, we then pick them up and we look above and we're like, yeah, we can do it in the next one. And I think that's pretty much down to the manager, down to the team cohesion and everything. So I'm very impressed with us at Arsenal. Okay, so from one Arsenal City game to another Arsenal City game, we hosted them that evening. So on Sunday evening, the men played in the Premier League. It was Arsenal 5, Man City 1. And let me tell you, there's been so much noise around this game, like so much noise. I mean, it mostly came from that one iconic celebration from Miles Lewis-Skelly, replicating what Haaland did, sitting down. How did he do it? He literally was like, oh my god, this beanbag's so noisy. Iconic, stay humble, you're here for it. But before I rush ahead to that moment, let's actually set the scene a bit. How did it start? Well, it pretty much started the same way that the women's game did, actually. Within a couple of minutes, Ødegaard found the back of the net. proper captain, actually quite a similar player to Caldenti who replicated that in the women's game. So it's quite nice to see that there's a lot of overlap. It's a very good day to be an Arsenal fan. Not so much a good day to be a City fan, if I'm being honest. But anyways, yeah, we went 1-0 up in literally like the second minute. It was from a defensive mistake, which seems to sort of be a reoccurring theme, but we capitalised on it, and Odegaard literally got the ball from Havertz, blasted it in the back of the net. So unreal scenes, beautiful to see. Haaland, I don't actually know. Like, where was Haaland? Where was Haaland? He literally went missing for about 54 minutes. And then in his first chance, he took it. I mean, you wouldn't expect anything less from him because he's literally beast up top. Like, he will exploit the defence. He will take every chance he gets. And he got one chance pretty much, and he took it. So hats off to him for taking it. Wouldn't expect anything less from him. But I'm impressed with us, actually, that we only gave him that one chance in the 55th minute. So, yeah, I mean, quite a few people saying he was non-existent. I don't know if I go that far, but if you look at what actually happened and how the game played out, he kind of was a little bit non-existent. And I think the one word that is probably haunting him right now is the word humble, because he said, if you're not aware, he said to Arteta back when we last played them, stay humble. And now he's been humbled. And what humbled him even more so was, yes, it was 1-0 at that moment. But then we got 4 more. We got them through Partey, Lewis Skelly, Havertz, and Waneri. Those 4 more goal scorers. So we had 5 different goal scorers in one game, which sort of begs the argument of, do we need a striker? Because we're actually creating a dynamic where loads of players can score the goals, and isn't that more impressive than just having one solo goal scorer? Also, it means that goals can come from anywhere. Anyone can create them, and it's good that you don't rely on just one player. But also, yes, I know that if we did have a Haaland in our team, maybe we'd be top of the table right now. You never know. But obviously there were 4 goals, and I don't think I have enough time to chat through all of them. But the one goal that I do want to talk through, actually more the celebration, was obviously Miles Lewis Skelly, which I mentioned a few moments ago. He sat down, did Haaland's impression. I think what made me laugh more so was that everyone around him, like you had Gabriel go up and go, like, whoa, like, oh my god, is he actually doing this? You had Rice being like, oh my god, is this guy for real? Like, but it's funny, and it made it literally onto my whole feed, every single post of it. Kendrick Lamar, stay humble, like every single post had that song, had that picture, and it's kind of iconic. I hope it doesn't come back to haunt us if we actually don't win anything, because then we've pretty much stayed humble. As long as City don't win anything, then I think we're okay. I'm hoping. But yeah, overall, very good day to be an Arsenal fan on Sunday. Not so much a City fan. But don't worry, because last night, let's move on to the final game of the week. Last night, it was Newcastle 2, Arsenal 0. I did predict this to be a 3-1 win to Arsenal. But if you look back at episode 13 of the Arsenal Humans podcast, my prediction actually was more, I need it to be a 3-1 win because we need to get 2 on aggregate, basically. So it ended up being 3 on aggregate, if that makes sense. But realistically, I was like, oh, it's probably just going to be a 1-0. It wasn't a 1-0. In fact, I feel like they pretty much dominated. I didn't actually get to watch the game, so I ended up just watching highlights earlier. And yeah, this pretty much was the game that humbled us. I mean, Isak got a goal within minutes. Like, this seems to be a theme this week, getting early goals. It was called offside, luckily, but I think that sort of just, like, you saw the atmosphere at St. James's Park. Like, everyone was like going off on one, all the Geordies chanting, and rightfully so. I mean, it's frustrating because going into this game, it meant so much more to them than it did to us, but I don't get why. Like, it should mean as much to us as it is to them because it's a cup. And I think Arsenal fans would be like, no, we've got more history, like we've got all of this and that and the other. But I'm like, what's our history in the last couple of years? Because right now we're not really getting that silverware, so we need to be, acting as if we actually want to win these things. Don't get me wrong, Odegaard did have a shot on target. It actually hit off the post. I don't know how. Like any other game, he would have got that in, but it just wasn't our day, I guess. And that one goal wouldn't have made a difference because they were 2-0 up, because this was the second leg of the semi-final. Then the offside goal soon didn't really matter because in the 19th minute, I want to say just before the 20th minute, Murphy got the goal because Isak basically shot, hit off the post, and then Murphy just slotted it away. And I feel like Gabriel didn't really mark him as much because he sort of saw the shot going and was like, okay, it's calm. And then Salah was like, oh. And it was just a bit late. And I do feel like it's quite annoying because if you ask people, oh, what's like one of the best defensive duos in the Premier League or even in the world actually, I guarantee people will put Gabriel and Saliba up there as one of the highest. But this game, I don't know what was going on. We were getting twisted and turned and they were sort of getting separated, and it didn't seem like the Gabriel and Saliba that you see and you idolise as being the solid defensive duo. So it was a bit frustrating, but Isak, Murphy, Gordon, they all took advantage of it. Raya then also messed up. I feel like it was sort of calmer probably because earlier in the week, on the Sunday, we capitalised on a couple of mistakes from City's keepers, both the men and women. And then it sort of, Raya made the mistake, he kicked it out. It was too light of a pass and then just got round Saliba, and then basically Gordon went through, scored. His post-match interview was kind of funny. Like, it was annoying because I was like, oh, but as in the fact that we had with Miles Lewis-Skelly, his celebration, I was like, I'm finding that funny, and I think, you know, you've got to be able to take it if you're giving it. So we gave it the other week, and then Gordon basically was like, yeah, they've got to stay humble or something like that. Or like, yeah, it was just, he basically used the words humble, and I found it funny because I was like, yeah, we've given it out, we need to be able to take it. We should be beating them, but it didn't work out like that. So although we ended the week last night on a low, I'm hoping the women can officially finish the week on a high tonight and get us through to that final of the Subway Cup. It would be amazing to be in another final and hopefully win it again for the third time in a row against Chelsea. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But overall, I'm thinking it's not been a bad week. It's been a bad week in terms of cup competitions, but it's not been a bad week in terms of the league. We've absolutely smashed the league, so I'm looking forward to next week. It is the FA Cup, so we have actually got one game to look ahead to, but let's do that now. Okay, amazing. So the predictions for this week are actually going to be kind of short because, like I said, it's the FA Cup, and sadly, only one of our Arsenal teams have got through to the next round of the FA Cup because Arteta's side got kicked out by United. What was that, like a month ago, a few weeks back? But we do still have the women. They will be playing on Sunday at 2 p.m. It is the 5th round of the FA Cup, and we're playing against London City, who are probably one of the most promising championship side I reckon they could probably beat in the WSL next season. I mean, if you look from anything from their social content, it's really impressive to what they're doing on the pitch. Just as impressive, the players they're attracting as well are usually ex-WSL players or upcoming players that will then be playing in the WSL next season, whether that's with London City or for another team. So their squad is promising. We can't get too complacent. I am going to predict a 2-0 win though because we are at home. If you look at the last 5 encounters, we've won them all. And the last one in particular, which was this time last year, we won 4-0. So I am feeling confident. Obviously, different squads, but as much as they've strengthened their squad, we've definitely strengthened our squad. So no matter what happens tonight in tonight's game, the semi-final of the Subway Cup tonight, I am feeling confident going into the weekend because it's like any game with Slagers where it doesn't matter necessarily the game that's just happened before. You just got to focus purely on that game ahead, and I'm feeling good about it. So I'm hoping this upcoming week, we've got one game tonight for the women and one game on Sunday for the women. That's 2 games, and I'm hoping 2 wins, but I guess you'll just have to stay tuned for episode 15 to see what the outcome is. But yeah, there's not really too much else I can say about it apart from let's get the dub. Let's get the dubs. So yeah, that's basically the end of this episode. I feel like this has gone really quick. I mean, I've probably been waffling a lot, but I feel like it's gone kind of quick. Oh yeah, I actually forgot to show you. Look how cute this is. Oh, it's not spinning. It's a little Subway football. How cute is she? She's so cute. I just thought that was quite on theme because tonight we are playing in the Subway semi-final. Ooh. Anyways, I wonder if you get free food. I'm pretty sure I've actually seen they do some free deals and stuff. So if I was going to that game, I'd so be eating that up. But I'm hoping be able to go to the final anyways, which should see Arsenal-Chelsea. But let's touch wood on that one. But anyways, that is the end of the episode before I waffle on about loads of Subway foods and things like that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was I feel like it was long in the analysis but short in the predictions. So next week I'm gonna find some other things to bulk up the content, definitely, because there's not too many games to reflect on. And if you have any questions that you'd want me to put as any suggestions basically for the warm-up poll or the warm-up question, then let me know, because I feel like I've got a lot of questions, but then I'm like, oh, what's one that's really impactful, really get out there? So that's why this week I was like, trophies. That's kind of a hot topic right now surrounding Arsenal, because it's getting kind of serious now. There's a few months before we find out who is actually lifting these trophies. But anyways, before I carry on waffling on, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, and you're watching on YouTube, hey, you'll see me right now. Like, subscribe, you know the vibe. And if you're listening on Spotify, then thank you so much. I feel like not as many people listen on Spotify as they do watch. But I hope you're enjoying it. So make sure you follow, 5-star review, all of that. But yeah, it's a good time to be a Gooner. Despite last night, it is a good time to be a Gooner, and I feel like we've got to stay positive. I'm actually feeling in such a good mood today. Don't really know why. But yeah, I'm feeling good. And if you're a Gooner, you should be feeling good. And you should also tune into tonight and Sunday's game, because you've got no distractions. You've got no other Arsenal to watch. So if you don't normally watch the women's game and you support Arsenal, this is your chance. This week is your chance. There's 2 games coming up tonight and Sunday. So yeah, sound like I'm doing a PSA, like an announcement for everyone. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for next week.